see if we're okay. We are live. What's going on, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Sunday Night Live. I am your host, Sarah, and I am going to be pulling this up so that I can see it myself. And hopefully that didn't mess anything up right there. It says we're still live, so I think we're okay. I'm going to pull up the chat real quick. Go ahead and introduce yourself.
Me?
Yes, you.
My name's Quentin Robbins, and my YouTube channel is Mid-South Outdoor Life, and I do a wide array of content all about an active outdoor lifestyle, but most of it is catfishing because I'm a catfish nerd.
There you go. Brooks, how you doing? Johnny is in the house. Lena, how you doing? Virginia Fisherman, I'm pulling up the chat right now.
I wonder if there's a way I can see the chat.
If you go to the, I'm not sure. Being on your phone, I'm not sure.
It's no big deal if I can't. I guess every question will be a surprise.
Yeah. All right, there we go. Country Girl Catfishing set her reminder for tonight, so she is not missing it. Jamie, how you doing? Pill and Dry Catfishing, Muddy River Catfishing, what's going on? Everybody's saying hey to each other. All right, so we've got Quentin in here, and we are going to be asking him a couple of questions. So any questions that you guys have for him, go ahead and post them in the chat. Can you go ahead and tell them a little bit about where you fish at?
Yeah, so, we talked about that there might be some people wanting to know about bank fishing my area. So I fish the lower Mississippi, and I fish a couple 100 miles of it, but my home ramp is in Memphis, Tennessee. And so it's important to point out that for anyone who's been on the Mississippi before, there's a major, major difference between fishing north of St. Louis and fishing south of St. Louis because of the confluences that come into the Mississippi. Any river, the farther down you go, the bigger it's going to be because the more rivers join it. My home ramp, when you pull out of the harbor, I launch in a protected harbor, but when you pull out of the harbor, it's about a mile across.
Okay.
And, most rivers are like 100 yards.
Yeah, that's
so
insane.
Always deep, always swift, always wide. And yeah, so I've had a lot of questions about bank fishing or kayak fishing that area. And I'm, here to answer any of those or just give some information about it.
For those just getting into the chat, remind everyone exactly what your channel is all about.
Okay, it's Mid-South Outdoor Life, and I do a variety of things, but probably 90% of my content is fishing content, and probably 90% of the fishing content is catfishing, whether it be flatheads or blues or channels. I'll go to other rivers sometimes, but most of the time it's the Mississippi. I fish 12 months a year. I fish about 3 times a week. I do some how-tos. I do some product reviews. I'm kind of known for being a little salty with my reviews. Like I won't bash a company, but even if someone sends me something for free, I'll either not do the review at all, or I'm going to say whether or not it's good or bad.
Yeah.
A lot of people seem to enjoy that. So, just honest reviews, I guess, is what I'm getting at. So I do reviews, I do how-tos, fishing. I've done some stuff with like dirt bikes and trucks and those sorts of things. And those are really more of a way of exposing my channel to a wider audience.
Yeah.
Maybe a guy who needs to research an F-150, he might like catfishing, and I can bring him to my channel.
Yeah.
Just by doing an F-150 review. So I've had people send me comments before saying, what are you doing? Are you going into power sports instead of fishing? No, that's not it. But, not everybody looks up only fishing.
Yeah.
And so, right. Just trying to reach more people, I guess.
Yeah.
I don't know if that even answered your question.
No, that gives a all-around view of your channel as a whole kind of thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
So in your area, do you primarily are there skipjack in your river?
There are skipjack in the river. You can catch skipjack in the river, but it's changing all the time, just as the Tennessee River is about to undergo a change. And it really all goes back to the Asian carp, which is kind of a depressing story. But I have a friend and mentor who's fished my section of the river since 1968. And, one of my favorite things to do is just listen to that man talk about that river in his time. And he used to be able to leave the harbor, stop at any wing dike along that river, cast above it and catch a skipjack, take the skipjack, put it on a hook, and it wouldn't make to the bottom before, a catfish had it. There was skipjack everywhere. But what happens is the Asian carp come in and they take all the food for the little minnows and the shad.
Yeah.
And starve out the shad, and the shad either move out to somewhere else or they just starve out. Well, what do skipjack eat? They eat shad.
Yep.
When you go to a dam to target skipjack, they are there. They're schooling to run those shad against those rocks and against those dams. The Tennessee River is one of the only places that is still rich, and I mean really rich, with skipjack. But the Tennessee River is also just now starting to really see the Asian carp invasion.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, they're going to see shad and skipjack change just as they have on the Mississippi River. And I tell you, here lately, I've had to get a little bit more creative and start using skipjack or start using Asian carp more for bait because it's changing.
Is skipjack what you would prefer to use as far as bait goes? No.
No, it's not, and the reason is because of the availability.
Okay.
I personally, if I could have a killer day on Asian carp, that's what I would prefer to use because I can get that anytime, anywhere, super easy. And on certain days, if I had 3 rods out with Asian carp and 3 rods out with skipjack, it might just be luck of the draw which one hits. But on certain days, all the bites are going to come on skipjack.
Okay, very cool. Yep, PGH Bottom Figures mentioned that he has a big trip coming up to New Mexico. Congrats on that. This is going to be a big trip for you. We'll get these questions going back up. Not that. So why do you fish? What gives you that urge? What's that pull for you that makes you fish?
I would have, I guess it would depend on when I'm referencing, like what time in my life am I referencing. But for right now, I would say the challenge. I like to learn. I like a chase. And to quote Bill Dance, the lower Mississippi River might be one of the best fisheries in America, but it's also the most difficult fishery. 99% of it's unfishable.
Yeah.
And he said, if you can catch a fish in that river, you can catch a fish anywhere. It is very difficult. So it might just be that. It might be the chase. Sometimes it's because it's relaxing when I will allow myself to relax and not be all caught up on whether or not I'm, putting enough fish on the boat. But it might just be the challenge of learning.
Question from Blue Collar Fishing. I used to live by the Tennessee River in Jackson, Tennessee, and my hometown in Mid-East Tennessee says there's a rumor the alligator gar are being reintroduced to help control the Asian carp. Have you heard anything about that in your area?
Not in my area, although that is true. I've read more than one article about the reintroduction of alligator gar. As far as it being around Jackson, I'm not sure about that. I do believe it was north of me, the areas I was reading about. I'm all for it. I mean, that's a species that would be a lot of fun to catch. So if they were to, even if they were to get a little bit out of hand, I don't think that'd be a bad thing. But right now, and I know this sound almost unbelievable, but recent survey or studies have have shown that in the lower Mississippi, 90% of all the biomass is Asian carp. 90%.
Hmm.
So if you drag up 1,000 pounds of all living things, 900 pounds of it was Asian carp.
Jeez.
Pretty unbelievable.
That's insane. That's
yeah.
Wow. The White Life wants to know, how long have you been on YouTube?
About 15 months, something like that. Now, I had some inactive months. When I originally started, I had a partner, and we sort of had like an outline of what we thought we were going to do. And then I no longer have a partner. And there was a little bit of a period in there where I did nothing. So I've been active, I want to say 10 months, but even though it's been there about 15 months.
And out of that active time, how often do you post a video?
Now I would say I'm posting 3 times a month, which I understand is not much. And I understand you're supposedly the key to success is frequency and consistency. But I haven't developed that yet. I'm kind of, I'll go out there with a plan on getting a video together, and then I'll get a bunch of footage and then decide it's not good enough and I throw it all away. I don't want to make content that's boring.
Yeah.
And we don't always catch fish, Sometimes I'll go out there and I'll work and work and work and just put all this effort into it that I think people would enjoy and not just be turned off by, and it just doesn't make it, and I don't put it out.
That's always up to the creator, I think, in that point. It's what we want to, if my rule is that if I cannot watch a video all the way through without being just completely bored, without being completely bored, then I'm not going to put that up for everyone else to see. Let's see.
I believe there's a pretty big learning curve to finding our groove as YouTube creators and finding out what our strengths are, what we want our vibe to be. And I believe that I've only recently found that since, in the last 6 months. The first few months I had no idea. I was being too serious, maybe being a little bit too dry,
yeah.
And I've been a little bit more loose with it lately, and I think that helps.
Yeah, definitely creating, I call it a YouTube personality. I feel like while all of us have somewhat of our YouTube personality, we're not like that all the time, I wouldn't say. We've all got our bad days, and we've all got our down in the dump days. So developing a personality for the channel that's always, the same is kind of difficult to do, in my opinion.
I agree. Some days I'm on the boat and the camera's going and I'm really stoic. And it's not because I'm bored. Sometimes I'm just really relaxed by being out there. There's not another fisherman for miles. And I just watched a pretty sunrise and the air feels good and I'm getting bites and I'm just glad to have this 2,500 mile river to choose from. And that makes me stoic and that makes me appear one way. But then other times I might be out there with a buddy and we're having a good time clowning and I'm thinking about shoving him in the river. And,
yeah. That might make
and then sometimes I want to just really cut up on YouTube, but then, I got to watch my mouth and, you don't want to offend folks, but I'm a real person and it changes from day to day.
Yeah. So I agree. It's like I'm playing a character in a show. You can't be that character all the time. Chris wants to know, what got you into YouTube?
Is this Chris Flores?
This is Chris Flores himself.
Well, first of all, hello, Chris. And I need to talk to you about you coming to Memphis for MRM. I know you said you might not make it, but hit me up because I want to make it happen. What got me into YouTube? I don't exactly know. I mean, like a lot of people, I was watching you and Steve bringing in some big fish. The first video of yours that I watched, I don't even think you caught a fish, but you told a story about you and your dad on the boat together. And that was a video that hooked me. And your tone in that video was very much like what I was just talking about. Sometimes I'm on the boat and I'm stoic and I'm as relaxed as the water. And that's the way you were. And I connected with that video. So maybe you were a part of what got me into YouTubing, because I took a lot of value from the videos that I watched from you and others. And I felt a desire to give that back because I spend so much time out there anyway. And yeah, I guess I was inspired by things like that. And I like to teach. That's another part of it. I do like to teach. Not that I'm a super skilled fisherman with a whole lot to teach, but I don't know. I enjoy sharing what I do out there.
You mentioned something on Catfish Weekly when you were on there the other week, and I don't want to talk too much about what you covered there, but you said something along the lines of, just so everybody knows, you know, I'm not the best fisherman out there. I'm not the best at, you know, whatever it is. This channel might not be the best there is, you know, as far as a learning experience, but I'm doing me. I'm getting myself out there. I'm putting this together. So hopefully someone can learn from what I've learned. I thought that was really interesting.
Yeah. I think when I was talking about, I think they asked for something about advice for YouTubers, and I said to be honest. You know, I know you've seen these channels where people go in there and it's like they're trying to copy somebody else, somebody that they learned from. We don't all have to be educators.
Yeah.
And we also don't all have to be funny or but we all have a strong point, and if we want to share that, let's focus on that. I don't know if that goes along with what you're saying or not, but
yeah, definitely. Someone asked, what do you fish from? Because they asked if you camp when you fish. But what do you fish from?
I do occasionally camp when I fish, but so I do have a canoe that I occasionally, I don't catfish out of it, but I take it like trout fishing and smallmouth bass fishing. But all my videos they are on a 21-foot custom built pontoon. It started life as a tracker pontoon, but we stripped it down to nothing and I built it. It took me about 2.5 months to build it to the way I like it. And it's fully rigged with everything a guy could want to catch fish. And sometimes I do catch a fish on it.
Yeah, that's awesome. So turning this conversation around, you talked about having a canoe. What about for kayakers? Do you have any advice for kayakers fishing on a river as large as the one that you fish on?
You got it. I do. So I put a lot of thought into this because the questions popped up a lot lately. And so what it really comes down to is it's extremely difficult to bank fish the lower Mississippi River for a number of reasons. One of them is because most of the places that you find, like if you can find even a public access place to fish the lower Mississippi River and actually fish the river, not backwater or a harbor of some sort, the current is going to be so strong that you're going to have major gear and tons of weight to try to hold a bait, even close to the bank. Okay, so it's super challenging. But anywhere around Memphis, you're going to have access issues because there's very few public accesses and everything else is like industrial or private property. So when people ask me how to bank fish that area, beyond whether or not they have the right tackle, there's access problems. And so I would answer that question by saying, if you want to bank fish the Mississippi River, get a kayak. Because not that I think that you should jump out on the lower Mississippi in a kayak, although people do it all the time.
Yeah.
You can use that kayak to access some of these spots and kind of get around the issue of private land. For example, if you wanted to go to, and you guys can Google this or get on, get on Google Maps and look at it. I go to the Mud Island ramp. There's a private ramp there, the Memphis Yacht Club, and that's the ramp that I use. And you can't go there and bank fish because it's a park, and the park officials, I'm sure, would run you off if you tried to bank fish there. Maybe I'm wrong about that, but I've never once seen it ever, and I'm there all the time. But if you take a kayak and launch it there at the ramp, pay your $10 to launch there at the ramp, you can then move first of all, the harbor is large. It's 3 miles long, so you've got a lot of areas to fish in the harbor. But you could take that kayak down to the point to the south end of the harbor, and you could get away with bank fishing just by pushing your kayak up to, even if you tied it up.
Yeah.
Whereas if you park your car and you walk with all your gear, they may run you off because of the issues of people leaving litter and, that sort of thing. So step one would be consider using a kayak to do your bank fishing. But here's another option, and I thought about this one and another one specifically for you, Sarah.
Okay.
If you're going to the Mud Island area, when there's only one way in, and when you come across the Willis Bridge, there's a circle, a traffic circle, and you would go left to go to Mud Island, or you could go right, and it would take you about 2 miles up to this other big city park. If you go all the way to the end, and that park is called the Greenway Park or Greenway Belt Park. If you go all the way to the north end of that, there's a confluence with another river. And that parking lot runs right down to the other river where you could launch your kayak or canoe.
Okay.
Then you could float, because you're upriver from Mud Island, you could take the 3 mile float downriver. And anytime you saw a little eddy, you could circle into that and fish that area. Underneath I-40 at certain levels, there's a nice eddy that you could fish. And then when you got down there toward the end of Mud Island, where the harbor is, obviously there's an eddy because there's a harbor. There's a lot of fishing along there. Then it's just a short paddle back to the boat ramp. So you've got this 3 mile float on the Mississippi River where you can fish in trophy catfishing paradise. I mean, big fish are caught there every week. All right. Then just get you an Uber to run you back to your car. Just, call for an Uber. He'll take you up to the Beltway Park. You can come pick up your kayak. Be awesome.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Another option from the same place. Okay. So you've went through the traffic circle. You've went up to the Greenway Park as far north as you can go before you ran into that next river, which is the Wolf River. Instead of sliding down the Tennessee side, you could take your kayak and paddle directly across the Mississippi. Just make sure there's no barge coming, but just go straight across. And it's a long way across. At that point, it is, I believe, 0.7 of a mile across. But that's an island over there, and there's a lot of current breaks. Sandbars, dikes, there's a couple small islands in front of the island. A lot of places that a kayaker could spend his day fishing or her day fishing. And I wish I had a diagram to show you guys, but you started upriver from where you're going. And if you go straight across the river, it doesn't matter that the current is moving fast. You'll make it across, even if you travel south some.
Yeah.
Do your fishing over there around that island and enjoy those current breaks. And then all you've got to do is come back across the river to the harbor. Again, it'll push you downriver, but you'll make it.
Yeah. Because
it's 3 miles. I mean, you got 3 miles to go across twice. Tons of good fishing. You'll be surrounded with giant blue cats. Some of the areas, there'll be some flatheads. So both of them are float options where you can get out and do your bank fishing. And then for you, I've got this epic idea because I know you're way into kayaking.
Yeah.
And I will help you do this if you're ever in the area and you want to do it. There's another public boat ramp that is 20 river miles north of the harbor where I fish. You could go to that launch site. You don't want to leave your vehicle there. That's where you'd need my help. I can get your vehicle back to Mud Island. Or for other people that are listening, figure out transportation, but don't leave your vehicle there if you can help it. But that's the Shelby Forest access.
Okay.
Go to the Shelby Forest Access, launch your canoe or your kayak, and plan on taking out at Mud Island. Now, it's 20 river miles, but the current's going 4 miles an hour average. So you could do that float in a day, or my other recommendation is split it into 2 days and just do a little Google search for Hickman Bar. That's an island, giant island with beautiful sandbars to camp on. So do half the float one day, half the float the second day.
Very cool. That would be definitely a neat experience. Especially with a break in between breaking it up into a 2-day thing and just camping on the sandbar. That would be super neat.
And that, by the way, this is very important. Don't attempt that if the river is above 20 feet on the Memphis gauge.
Above 20
for
feet.
a number of reasons. There'll be more current then, and it wouldn't be as pleasant, but also there won't be as good of beaches. Like if the river's down around 10 feet, that island has huge, beautiful beaches.
Yeah.
But if it's up around 20, there'll only be a small beach on each end, and a lot of the islands won't have beaches at all.
Gotcha. A couple of questions flew by. One of them was, is the Mississippi dangerous in the kayak for barges and such?
Yes.
All right.
Yep. The key to that is a downriver barge is not very dangerous in terms of the rough water that they create. Obviously, you don't want to be in front of one, but if a barge is going upriver, you want him to get like a mile away before you try to cross the river. Because if he's going upriver, he's going to make huge swells, like 5-6 foot swells in some cases if he's fully loaded. So if he's going upriver and you're making that decision to go behind him, wait till he's like a mile away. If he's going downriver, it's no big deal at all because he won't tear the water up that bad.
Awesome. Good to know. The wildlife wanted to know, what are the average size catfish that you catch? What's a realistic catch for you?
It really depends on what size bait I'm using. Like I tend to lean towards trying to go for the bigger fish, and so I'm usually throwing fairly large baits. And what I find is most of the time I'm not catching them smaller than about 10 pounds. They're usually 10 to upper teens, and then you get that occasional, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70. But most of them are between 10 and 20. However, if I've had a rough couple of trips, I'll go out there with smaller hooks tied on and throw smaller baits just to like ensure that I'm going to catch fish, and then you're going to catch smaller fish. It's like if you use big baits, you eliminate small fish.
Yeah.
Often you'll throw a big bait out there and the whole time it'll be getting a bite. Like if I threw 10 large head baits out, like big ones, all 10 rods might be going at one time, but it's small fish that can't take that bait. And then all of a sudden, 10 minutes later, one of them 3 eyes deep down in the water and you got a big fish.
Going into that, what's the largest fish you've ever caught?
A little over 77. I struggled to get his actual weight for various different reasons, the length of the net and holding him up, and I didn't have a great scale, but it was over 77.
Awesome. That's how long did it take you to get him in?
Long time. I don't know. I was by myself. I was in moving water. I was in deep water. I hooked it in like 55 feet of water, but it pulled me out into like some 80 feet of water and came up. Like I got it up a couple times and it went right back down, and it was a long time. And some boaters that were nearby that were watching it go on, they moved closer and watched me get it in. And when I got it in the net, they came over and tied up to my boat and helped me get it over the railing. And it's a long story, rough water, and we got it in the boat and they helped me get pictures.
Yeah.
And it was epic. And since then, I haven't had any giants. I've caught some good ones, some 40s, some 50s, but looking for that giant.
Still awesome. That's definitely a day you'll probably never forget.
I know. It was a great day. It was 33 fish that day, and that one was the 11th fish. And man, it's a good time.
Before I ask your next question, this point in the show is the time where I normally do the catch of the week. Because we're doing this on a different platform today, I'm not going to do it during the live show, but don't worry, your pictures will still be on the Wednesday catch of the week segment. And next week we'll probably be back to our normal Sunday Night Live and on Wednesdays thing. It just didn't work out this week, guys, and so sorry about that if you're looking forward to that halfway through the show. But we're going to keep pushing out these questions and keep getting all these answers for you from Quentin. He's got a lot of information that he can shoot out to you, and it's going to be a great show. All right, going back into this. What's the most dangerous part of the river?
Your mindset.
Okay.
It really is. Complacency is the most dangerous thing, because when it's deceptively big, sometimes we'll make the assumption that everything is far away.
Yeah.
You kind of get used to being so far from things. And it's like when people go out on the water, they don't think that they have to look for traffic, and that's why boats get ran over, right? You see that all the time. Somebody ran over a giant ski boat because they were complacent. Well, it's the same thing in this scenario. If you're complacent, and like the barges, they're a lot bigger here than they are north of St. Louis, and so sometimes they're more than a quarter mile long. Well, that means that in some cases, if let's say that barge is 1,400 feet long, that's the tows, and then the barge, the actual tug is behind that. You're not going to hear that motor. You can have no clue that a boat that's more than a quarter mile long and let's see, it would be what's 7 times 80, 560 feet wide. You can have no idea that it's 100 feet from you because you can't hear the motor. You'll hear the wake off the front of the boat. You hear the tug. Yeah. So complacency, that's the most dangerous thing. Your head's got to be on a swivel all the time.
Jeez. That's scary. I can't even imagine. Well, I guess eventually I'm going to get there. But in my head right now, I'm just like, that's insane.
It's a good time. You need to come out. Joe Herron is coming. You know Joe, don't you?
Yeah.
He's coming all the way from Chicago in 2 weeks to come check it out, to fish with me.
All right. We'll get out there eventually. What are some safety tips you have for fishing on the river?
Don't assume that the government is keeping you safe. And what I mean by that is most everywhere we go in life, there's road signs, or like if you go to the zoo, there's like 4 fences to keep you from the lions, right?
Yeah.
There's nothing keeping you safe out there. The channel markers that are there, they're not out there for us fishermen. They're out there for the $100 million tows that are going up and down the river to help them navigate between the wing dikes. There is some unbelievably dangerous things left behind from like old levee projects, sunken barges. There'll be an area where there used to be a dike, and you think that there's this giant opening that's 400 feet wide that's clear to drive through, but all of a sudden out in the middle, there's a 9-foot tall pile of rock that you didn't realize was there. Mm. So, yeah, don't assume that any measure of your safety was considered by anyone else other than yourself. That's a tip. Don't anchor. If you're not an extremely, a really, really experienced boater with swift water, don't even consider anchoring on the lower Mississippi. I know that some people say that's overkill, but it's crazy dangerous, especially if you're by yourself. It's different if you're going to run the boat and someone else is going to work the anchor line, but
yeah. Someone asked, you mentioned camping. How far off the water edge do you recommend camping if you're going to be on one of those islands? I mean, how much does the water differ from day to night, or do you have to worry about that?
Yeah, you do. It's kind of rare to see more than like a 3-foot fluctuation. I mean, we do have a large fluctuation, like 47 feet this year it fluctuated. But you're not likely to see more than 3 foot in elevation. So basically, you just want to know if the river is going up or down. Okay, and about what rate, and I use rivergauges.com. If you know that the river is coming up, then I'd just go up that sandbar, you know, figure out, make sure that you're 5 feet of elevation above the water, and you don't have a worry in the world.
Okay, good deal.
Now, I personally like to be closer to the water because the creepy crawlies are up in the trees.
Yeah.
And I'm not much on those. So I kind of like to be close to the edge of the water.
Tiffany wants to know if you've ever used dip bait. Does it work in that area?
Use what?
Dip bait.
Don't get me started. I hate that stuff. I've swore that out of my life so many times. Yeah, it's supposed to work. It doesn't work for me. I've never once caught a fish on that stuff. Any of it, any brand. People swear by that Sunny crap. I've thrown like 4 jars of that away. Woo, you get me fired up. I mean, I talk to people all the time that they'll go out with dip bait and fill up a cooler with, you know, like 3-pound channels, but not this guy. Total strikeout.
Got you.
Empty hooks.
What recommendations do you have for those that are bank fishing?
In my area.
In your area, yes. They're going to Memphis to visit Memphis for the first time, and while they're there, they figure, you know what? Why don't I go catch a fish in Memphis and go to a bank somewhere?
Well, I already gave my biggest tip, and that's get a kayak, because you're gonna have access problems because it's all commercialized. I mean, excuse me, but you know, I want to give more than that, so I'll say this: if you are gonna put in the work to find an area that is either not fully commercialized or you think you're going to get away with trespassing, look at it on Google Maps, and one good spot would be you need to be in between two rock dikes, not the kinds that are close together like 50 to 100 feet apart. They need to be like a half a mile apart. And the reason for that is you can get a better current break there. Because if you go to some place that doesn't have a rock dike, the current's going to be so swift, you're going to have like 30 ounces of weight and then a rod that can cast that. And that's not ideal for most people. So find a place where you got rock dikes at least a quarter mile apart, and then start off about halfway in between there. Because if you're halfway in between there, you may have a downriver current, you may have an upriver current, because all rock dikes, if this is the rock dike and the river is going this way, when that water goes out and around them, it always swirls back. So a certain distance behind the rock dike, you're going to have a backwards current, always.
Yeah.
If you're a little farther down, you won't be in that swirl and it'll be going the normal direction again. So don't just go right to the rock dike, because you might have a swift upriver current. If you're right in front of a rock dike down here, you might have a swift downriver current, somewhere in the middle.
Along with that, are there any safe places to leave or what are some of the safe boat ramps to leave your vehicle at? Places or boat ramps.
Okay. Completely avoid McKellar Lake, not just because whether or not it's safe for your vehicle, but because you're actually 7 miles from the river when you go to that boat ramp.
Okay.
And if you go to Mud Island, it's very safe, but parking is a little bit limited and you do have to pay to launch. It's $10 to launch, and you're not going to bank fish there successfully without a kayak. The upper end of the Greenway Park has a huge parking area. I personally have never had a problem there, and I have used it a number of times, but it seems sketchy to me.
Okay.
So I can't really tell you it's a safe place, to be honest.
All right. Switching gears a little bit, do you have any tips for anyone that's just now starting a YouTube channel and trying to get into the fishing YouTube side of things?
Yeah, don't do it.
Come on now.
What would my tips be? Well, gosh, I don't know if I have good tips other than if you want to do a YouTube channel because you want it to be successful, then put thought into it before you start putting up videos. Find somewhat of a direction that you want to go, stockpile a few videos, and see if those videos harmonize in a single direction before you ever post them publicly. I had a few videos before I posted anything, and I think that's important. Gosh, I wish I had something better than that. Just be honest with who you are. If you're not a real expert on your topic and you try to be an expert on the camera, anybody that knows anything is going to see that you're not an expert. Well, stop trying.
Yep.
All these people that I see guys all the time that talk about they talk about sponsorships and trying to be this pro fisherman. We see through that. You're not fooling anybody. Just be straight up and honest. Because if you're going to get followers of actual value that are going to watch your content, you're going to have to be honest. I mean, I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong, but that's the way I look at it.
Someone asked something. Patriot Treasures, what does that mean, please? This, I don't know what you're talking about. Elaborate a little bit more for me.
Which one?
Patriot asked, he said something. I don't think he finished what he was saying.
Kirby
Fishing and Grill said, I agree with that. I see a lot of people on YouTube that can't cook. If you've never watched any of his channel, he does a really cool, especially his Saturday morning live shows. He's got like 3 cameras set up, and he's cooking breakfast for his whole family. It's really neat.
Who is it?
It's Kirby's Fishing and Grill.
Okay.
Fishing and Grill, yeah.
I'll check it out. Hey, is this a good time for me to say, those of you, and you tell me if this is not allowed, but those of you that watch Sarah's channel, she does a wider array of cool stuff than I do. I'm really just a catfish nerd, but if you want to watch some catfish content that is just pure and not, we're not trying to be Mr. Cool, come check me out, because we just keep it real. We get out on the boat, and sometimes we're catching turtles, sometimes we're catching giants.
Yeah, that's definitely not allowed. His link is
not allowed. Subscribe. Click and subscribe.
His link is in the description below, guys.
Yeah.
Sorry, that's all right, Maurice. So I'm going to get a little bit off topic as well right now, because I know a lot of folks out there have had questions for me. The Trash Collectors Tournament is live on the Drop Hook app. It is under, let me pull it up real quick, Trash Off, Fish On. That is the tournament name on the app. There is one photo on there as of right now from today. And remember that you can enter 2 ways, with the weight, or you can enter with just the bag. First 20 people are going to get decals sent to you, either one of those or one of these. And I'm really looking forward to getting this kicked off. I am going to be working with a couple of people in the next couple of weeks of doing a big trash pickup in South Carolina that will probably branch out throughout the year. I know I've talked to you, Quentin, about, you mentioned Memphis being a great area, and I may be getting with him and maybe doing a big cleanup there. So that would be awesome to just do a meet and greet with a lot of folks. Maybe we can get a lot of YouTubers involved and do a big cleanup. How cool would that be?
I would love to help you with that. Honestly, I think your Trash Collectors Tournament is one of the coolest things I've seen on YouTube in a long time. I think you're going to get overwhelmed with it, though, so get ready.
I'm prepared.
Go.
Someone that I think he's watching right now, he sent me I reached out to him to see if he knew anybody that could help me get the word out about the tournament, and he said, yeah, I know this guy, and but he's the real deal. Are you sure you're ready? And I think my response was just bring it on. I mean, yeah. I just, something in my head just clicked, and this thing just kind of took off. So yeah.
Is there a prize for most unique item found?
There's not yet. Maybe I should make that. I will tell you that my niece found a gift card the other day with $2 on it.
Oh, yeah?
The Wyatt Life said that was instant karma.
Yeah.
That was pretty cool. Any other questions you guys have for us? We're going to talk a little bit about YouTube and kind of how we got started right now. So he's already told us how he got started. You told us a couple of folks that kind of inspired you to start your YouTube channel. Is there anything you regret with starting your YouTube channel?
That's a really good question.
I know I didn't prepare you for that one. That was just off the top of my head.
That's a really good question. Anything that I regret? Ooh. Can we circle back to that?
Yeah, definitely.
I want to know. I want to turn the tables on you a little bit.
Okay, shoot.
So, why did you start your channel? What was your first video, actually? Let me ask you that.
My first video was me purchasing my first kayak.
So you're just about to purchase?
I just purchased it. So I had in my head what I wanted with my channel. I wanted to be a kayaking, fishing channel that also did lives, hence the name Yakinwithsarah. And while I didn't have a way to do any, I wanted to be different with my live feeds, which is why I do my live feeds in a different way than this normally. And I wanted to be able to have all that set up and to be unique in that aspect. So got the kayak. I wanted to show everybody that it's okay to go out there in the cheapest kayak you can find, which is exactly what I did, and just completely rigged it for fishing. I fished out of that kayak for 2 years almost. While I didn't post many YouTube videos in that year and a half, I really kicked off the channel probably 9-10 months ago is where I started getting very consistent and started focusing on the channel. Then probably 5-6 months ago now, I really got into live feeds and was able to had more time to learn more about them, and saw growth in that direction, so I went with it. Does that answer your question?
It does. I also want to know, you sent me that picture of that big bass that I used in the promo video for this episode. What did that bass weigh?
I don't know. I couldn't tell you. Yep.
I don't know.
I have no idea. I can guess over 8 pounds.
Yeah, I guessed it over 8. Yeah.
Yeah, we didn't have a scale with us that day, and that's the last day we didn't have a scale with us when we came out. I've actually got 3 scales in my car right this second, but yeah, that's second really big bass that I've caught that I just didn't have a scale with me. I don't do a whole lot of tournament fishing. I'm just now getting into kayak fishing, and I don't need a scale for that. So it's not something I always had with me.
I see.
Yeah.
I see.
Unfortunately, we'll never know.
I think in a way I can circle back to that question you asked me.
Okay.
Sort of. You asked me, is there anything that I regret about starting my YouTube channel? It's not really my regret, but there is something that, how do I word it? Okay. It's not that I regret it because I'm not the one that does it, but that I would recommend people not do so that they don't regret it. How about that?
Okay. Go for it.
I have found that there are a number of YouTubers that seem to only want to collaborate, or they want to chase after bigger YouTubers.
Okay.
And
oh, you mean like I did with Dieter?
No. No. Like, okay, there's a guy that lives south of me, has a tiny channel. He's got like, I don't even know if he has 100 subs, but man, he's got this cool groove going. And we got a totally different vibe. But in terms of growth, I have nothing to gain. But that's the guy I want to collaborate with. You know, I want to make connections with people and, you know, put two channels together and make something cool, hopefully, and meet a friend. And I just think that's what YouTube should be about, is connecting with people and interacting with people. And I don't think that we should be making those decisions on who has the most subs. Like, I've had a number of conversations with other YouTubers, and the next thing that I see is them basically courting large YouTube channels.
Yeah.
But that's like totally hypocritical. Like, I don't know, just that doesn't answer your question, but it's one thing about YouTube that I wish went a little bit different. But there's a lot of things in the world we wish went different, right?
Yeah, you're exactly right.
You know, like when I met you at the Catfish Conference, we both had like nothing subs.
I think
basically
I was at like 200 or 300 subscribers.
We had nothing, but you were a good egg, and I could tell right away. And me and Victoria had a good time visiting with you, and that's the type of people I like to link up with. I don't care how many subs you have, and I wish more YouTubers were like that. That's what I'm getting at.
I'll tell you a very cool experience I had. I got to meet a YouTuber that has like 4 million subscribers. D Almighty. I don't know who that is or not, but he's an extremely well-known treasure hunter on YouTube. I was at the Bassmasters Classic in Greenville, South Carolina, and I was actually standing in line to get my free spool of, I don't know what kind of line it was, but it was a free spool of line on free reels that you bring. And I look over, and he's standing there right beside me talking to his family. He had to have just came in the door, and no one was there with him. And I'm like, hey, man, you know, just thought I'd let you know that I really appreciate your channel. It's, I've watched a lot of it. I think you've got a cool vibe going for you. You and your girlfriend and your dog, all of you, you know, he had all of them there, his whole family. I think you're doing a great job. And he just sat there and talked with me for a while, and just, you know, it wasn't about how many subscribers one of us had. It wasn't about anything. He was just like, oh, that's really awesome that you're, you know, I really appreciate you watching the channel. He called his girlfriend over, and he said, come here, come talk to this girl. And we all sat there and talked for a couple of minutes till I got my line spooled, or my reel spooled, and it was really cool to see that. And not all YouTubers are all about that, I should say.
That's true. They're definitely not. And I want to meet more of those people.
Yeah, definitely. Are there any changes, speaking of us meeting at the Catfish Conference, are there any changes that you would like to see as far as the Catfish Conference goes in this next year?
Heck yeah, man, there is. I want it to be much bigger. I want it to be supported by the guys in the electronics industry. I think Garmin and Humminbird and Lowrance, they all need to be there, and they need to be doing demos, because Catfish guys are using electronics these days to the same level that Bass guys have been for a while. We need that support. I want it to be in a bigger building so that we can have every boat ever made there. I want people to not go eat Taco Bell for lunch and then come back to the conference. That building was too small for everybody to go eat Taco Bell. For sure. I thought everybody would eat the catfish sandwiches. Well, I don't know what all they ate, but I smelled some Taco Bell and some BO. So if there's a goodie bag, it needs to have deodorant in it. Did I go on?
No, I think you got that covered.
I had a good time there, though. I really did. The YouTube thing was cool.
Yeah, I really like that. I think that's definitely something that they need to continue.
I'd like to do more with it, you know, in the same way that there's fishing seminars. You know, I'd like to organize the YouTube rally just a little bit, you know.
Do somewhat of a YouTube seminar to teach, you know, different types of things, whether it be tagging, or maybe someone has some questions about some of the software that I use, because I do stuff a little bit different than everybody else. That would be very cool. Maybe that's something that we can talk to some folks about and make that happen.
Maybe.
Someone said, I'd like to meet you, come to Canada, and we can do something. I don't plan on going to Canada anytime in the near future.
Canada? Do they have catfish up there?
Canada? I don't think I've ever gotten a catfish picture sent from Canada.
I believe they got some big channel cats up there.
Yeah. Any other questions you guys have for us before we wrap it up? Any questions you have for me, Quentin?
Where do you see your trash collectors tournament in 3 years? Will it still be online, or do you think you'll be doing person-to-person live on location events?
It will be both.
You think it'll be both?
I think it'll be both in 3 years. If this one goes as I would like for it to go, I believe that I will be doing a yearly tournament with just big, huge prizes. And then I will also be traveling and doing meetups and doing big trash cleanups all across the U.S. That would be my goal.
I hope so. I hope so.
Yeah, that's the goal right now. It might not be 3 years. That might be 5 to 10 years, somewhere in that range. But definitely a goal there.
Do you have what I would call like a secondary benefit in mind? And what I mean by that is, it's such a good concept that obviously a lot of vendors are going to get on board, and you can generate a lot of interest from them. Do you think the focus will only be cleaning up the waters, or is there something like a secondary source that some of the revenues could go towards, like, getting kids out on the water or helping?
Yeah, definitely. So
finish, or
during the school year, because a lot of scouts and don't meet during the summer. That's one thing I'm going to try and push next year. I'm going to reach out to some folks about getting involved with the Girl Scouts and the Boy Scouts communities and setting up stuff with them. So obviously they're another nonprofit, which is something I'm going to be getting my nonprofit license this year. So that's the 501 whatever. So I'm going to be applying for that this year. It's not something I have right now, and that's actually hurt me when it comes to prizes. So next year, plan on bigger stuff, because I will have that, and I'll be able to reach out to more vendors and, like you said, and things like that. But I want to start teaming up with other folks, like you said, teaming up with the kids and either the Boy Scouts and the Girl Scouts. Maybe I'm not sure where else I'm going to reach from that, but I haven't thought about that in depth yet, or how far that's going to go.
I can't wait to see what you do with it. I think it's awesome, and I want to help with it at some point in some way.
Yeah, that would be fantastic. Make sure you're sending your pictures into that on the Drophook app. They are redoing their app so that I'm not sure it will be launched by the end of the month, but they are redoing their app so that they will no longer ask for that to have access to your contacts. It is just grandfathered in with the app developer. How do I put this? They're the app developers, but who helped them set up the app? It's grandfathered in right now, and there's nothing they can do to change that, unfortunately.
I had a question about our entry, about our submissions. You can enter more than one time, correct?
Yes, as many bags as you have. And
then, so do you add all the bags together and that's your total performance, or is it your heaviest bag is what you're?
Nope, all the bags added together throughout the entire month.
That's cool.
Yeah. So the goal is 1,000 pounds. I think we could reach that. I've had a couple of people send me pictures of like 20 to 40 pound hulls in a day. So that adds up very quickly when it's just one person sending that in. Someone said I could reach out to Hefty or Glade. Maybe they could help with sponsorship.
That's a good idea. Who can help with that?
Yeah, that would be great. Maybe I'll shoot them an email once I get that 501c. No, I have not, Johnny. I haven't. I have talked to the. He asked about any of the. I think he's asking about a news station. I've contacted a couple of news stations. I know 106.3 WORD announced it a little bit this morning in my area. But besides that, no one else has announced it on the radio. That is it, folks. Patriot Dredgers and Catfishers will not be live after the show tonight due to a terrible storm passing through. So sorry, guys, no live catfishing tonight. But thank you so much, Quentin. If that's all you got for me, you have any other questions?
That's right. I'm good. I appreciate you having me on, and thanks to everybody that watched.
That's awesome. Thank you guys so much. I'll catch you later.